Another ruse performance that didn't resemble anything good on Friday. While a knee injury to Sam Darcy had hearts and mouths at Footscray. Dimmer hates Marvel Stadium, leave him at the Gold Coast balcony. While at the G on Easter Monday, Bailey Smith dished out a manual falcon. The Pies dismantled Fages' men. Freo are being questioned again, and Noel Bolter's got to be home by 10 to dissect anything from round 6 that look towards a massive Anzac round. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub with 2014 Anzac Day medalist Joey Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy, Daisy, Damo. Yes, it's a hectic little 3 weeks, isn't it, with gather rounds, Easter, and now Anzac, but I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Man to kick 2 goals on his Anzac Day debut, Daisy Thomas.
Favourite week of the year outside of Grand Final week, Rabsy. This is awesome, and I can't wait to rip into it.
And AFL.com.au's bravest soldier, Damien Voldamo Barrett.
Hello, boys. And also took a Mark of the Year contender on the same day.
Yeah, Mark of the Year, Goal of the Year.
Whatever.
Was that on your first Anzac Day?
That was awesome.
Was it?
Yeah, I touched on this. Howie asked me about it in the Howie Games. A little bit of your mentality. My whole thing was, generally roll out and, oh, well, this is what you've dreamt of.
Go for it.
Go for it. Let's rip. And thankfully it worked out okay.
It is good fun, Anzac Day. Just give us a quick little, I know you've done it before, but what it feels like to play on Anzac Day.
Yeah, I think the clubs have done a really good job in continuing to do that with the history of the day and taking players behind sort of the scenes as to what the actual troops went through and then bringing in past players who served, because it does make a really nice reflection piece when you're sitting there as an 18-year-old in your first year or your second year and you're going, geez, I'm going out to play footy, and at times these blokes were putting their hand up often early to go and fight for your country. And then obviously the game's unbelievable once it gets going, but the whole observance, the bugle, everything, the last post that comes with that is the best part of the year. And whether you're in the crowd or on the ground, it's hard not to get emotional.
And Dame, Anzac Day Eve now has become a real highlight as well. Melbourne, Richmond.
I reckon it's an equal part, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that there's darkness and there's lights and there's horses and there's as much ceremony isn't there attached to the meaning of the occasion. So I agree with you. And I think from a football perspective, the fact that both Richmond and Melbourne have won in the week going into this game, it's going to elevate that even further.
Yeah, that's spot on. Both teams, they played great footy last week, both Richmond and Melbourne. So all of a sudden that game does have a little bit more on the line. But speaking of Melbourne, Damo, this man, Dale Thomas, he used to be a part-timer. He didn't do his homework and he copied other people's stuff.
He had to get up earlier than he was.
I tell you what, there's a reason why he's now the number one man in footy. He's the best in the business. Because last week we had a bit of a chuckle at Daisy, but the
Laughed
Oracle
me out the studio, you
Oracle returned. Rabsy, can we just go back and take a listen to Dale Thomas 7 days ago? How can you tip against Brisbane at the Gabba at the moment, the way they are going? So can't wait for it, but have to go Brisbane.
Comfortably, Collingwood for me.
West Coast versus Essendon. Again, this is on Friday night, doubleheader.
It is, and this is, for whatever reason, it's just come over me that I'm tipping West Coast in this game.
How? What? Based on what?
Just a feel. They'll be my outsider, of course, but I will be tipping them as well.
I just can't see a way that Fremantle loses this game. Fremantle.
I've circled Melbourne. Again, they're not as bad as they are, if that makes sense. Again, a bit like the West Coast theory that they have to turn it around at some point, and they've got better players than what they're serving up. They've been slapped around, backs against the wall. A response has come.
That's the wrong one. I'm trying to get you.
That'll do it.
Daisy Thomas is the Oracle.
You're also your own hero of the round.
Just seen him like beach balls, Daisy.
Hang on, West Coast didn't win.
That was a very good tip. It was
I was happy
as
at
a
quarter
good
time
tip.
with their performance. But this year, more than any other, you can keep your stats. You can have them lined up. You may as well go on gut feel as much as anything because as we've seen in these first 6 rounds, it's anyone's game when it rolls out if you bring the right attitude.
Although in saying that, it was a few weeks ago, wasn't it? Finn sent in a message and said Daisy for 17 weeks had tipped against Hawthorn. And he they'd won most of them. So he's just written in again, Daisy, because the last 2 weeks you've tipped Hawthorn and they've lost. So he said, Daisy, can you stop tipping Hawthorn again and go back to tipping the other teams because the Hawks have lost the last 2 after you changed your tune. Started tipping them.
Be careful what you wish for, Finn.
The Bailey Smith double.
And if that costs me 1,000, I'm happy. Make it 2.
Well, the Hawks face West Coast at Marvel Stadium. Be interesting to get your tip on that one later on the midweek rub. Fair dinkum or Fugazi still to come. But up next, Damo, it is your news. And the young Todd Goldstein will be making a return on Anzac Day. Fair dinkum or Fugazi still to come, plus your round 6 predictions, which kicks off on Thursday night, Melbourne versus Richmond. But Damo, it's time for your news. And Anzac Day could see Todd Goldstein return for the Bombers.
Yeah, it turns 37 in July. We just spoke to Days before about the experiences of Anzac Day as an 18-year-old. This guy is nearly double or more than double that. And it's an extraordinary story given he's basically there purely for the backup reasons that are now required to be processed, Joey, because of the Nick Bryan ACL damage 3 weeks ago and then the last week damage to Sam Draper with the Achilles. It's catastrophic from a big man perspective at Essendon, but it's proof that you need as a footy club to have a third stringer when it comes to the big man department. And in this case, the Todd Goldstein story at Essendon continues.
It's a big ask, isn't it? I should know, but I don't know. Has he been actually playing VFL or he has been playing some VFL?
I don't know if there's been a full quota of matches, but he has had a recent hit out in the past fortnight.
Because I'm sure he was probably more thinking I'm here because he's doing some coaching, isn't he?
Yep.
Some assistant coaching with the Rucks and the young
And
young
Brett
guys.
Scott has always loved him as a North coach and then was the reason he got across to Essendon. But I don't think anyone thought he's going to be playing footy, particularly on this day anyway, as a near 37-year-old.
And he probably thought, Daisy, he'd play a few games here and there when he was needed and he'd be fit and ready. But all of a sudden, he's going to have to shoulder the load for the next 18 weeks for a big man turning 37. It's going to be a big ask. How do you see it unfolding?
Well, he's a competitor. We know that. And he's a very good ruckman and has been for a long time. He just has to break even, in my opinion. Anything above that is over-exceeding and doing a good job of it. I think he'll be more than competitive in his first hit out and then maybe slowly decline a little bit. You always get up when you're fresh. Then week 2, week 3, week 4 become a lot more tough as you come against potentially some of the better ruckmen because there are still a few dour ones that just purely hit the ball, but there are some pretty athletic ones that he's going to have to do a whole lot of chasing on. Big 2-metre Peter, he could go in the ruck, or if you want Ben Mackay as well to get him around the footy, you throw him in and see how you go, but they're going to have to move the magnets, that's for sure.
I can find a reason.
Goldstein's last VFL game, by the way, was on the 29th of March. He had 45 hitouts and 25 disposals against Werribee.
Yeah. I can find a reason to talk about Marcus Bontempelli without there being a reason, but there is a reason this week because he returned last week after missing the first 5 matches and just reminded everyone, if they needed reminding, that there's still the number one man in town.
Yeah, I think I said on this show last week, great that he made his return against St Kilda, and that's exactly what he delivered. He single-handedly won. Well, he didn't because they'd flogged St Kilda anyhow, but his return was unbelievable. Like, it was better than we expected.
Absolutely.
It was a reminder that he is right up there. If he's not the best, I've still got Nick Daicos just in front at the moment, but it was incredible what he did. And the teamwork walks taller when he's out there, and it's somewhat sort of damp, for the Darcy loss to have him come back into some form was a bit bittersweet.
And when you reference the Darcy loss, Days, the fact that you could almost see him seize that moment, knowing that there was a storyline going on that wasn't good from a Bulldogs perspective, and then the way he just galvanised that team after that moment with Darcy. Now, again, there wasn't anything obvious about it, but he just seemed to even elevate his own performance even more than he was going to, if that makes sense.
It certainly does. You can see blokes and a player like Marcus Bontempelli, also Paddy Cripps, they sort of get the chest out and they say, boys, come with me. Jump on my back and I'll show you exactly what to do. You just provide what you can do and I'll do the rest. And he did that. The numbers were off the charts, 30 disposals, 2 goals, 2 goal assists, 12 score involvements, 442 metres gained, 1 ponytail. He was very, very good.
he was looking good too. Would you play him more forward now with only Norton down there, with no Cody Waitman, no Jamara, no Darcy? Just spend more time forward, not like Dangerfield to that extent, but a more 50-50 split, or you think, where he can do the most damage is around the ball mostly? If
I'm Luke Beveridge, I'd be going to Aaron Norton and saying, mate, this is your time. Yeah, you've been sort of on the precipice and now Sam Darcy's come in and a lot of the footy goes to him and at times it probably should go to you, but he's become the number one man. This is your opportunity. Demand the ball, be the figure we need you to be, provide a strong contest, and this is why we've got you. Go and show us.
Agree.
Connor Nash, as we know, belted Brian Myers in a footy act that must be said on the Easter Monday game. He goes to the Tribunal tonight, that being Wednesday night of this week. It means that the match review office has given that a 3+ finding on it. 4 matches will be what the AFL seeks to have. I just wanted to raise it. I spoke with Andrew Dillon, the CEO of the AFL, at the start of the year, and he did moot potential changes to the MRO and Tribunal set up over the course of the next X amount of time. But I just feel that in 2025, we don't need a tribunal hearing to determine whether that incident is 3, 4 or 5. Let's just have a body and let's have someone who's paid full-time by the AFL, not Michael Christian, who was a part-timer. Just tell us that night even, that's 4 or that's 5. And then to make the first step, the appeal, in inverted commas, against the finding, rather than have a match review office on a Tuesday tell us what happened on a Monday was worthy of 3+, maybe 4, then sit through 3 or 4 hours tonight of arguments about what maybe 4 or 5, and then to still have a possibility of an appeal beyond that. It is so unwieldy, this system.
Yeah, you've been onto it for a long time. It is a bugbear. You're right, just even hearing. So Michael Christian can grade all these little incidents.
He can do whatever he wants.
Up until they're 3 weeks. But if it's 4 weeks, he can't. He has to give it over to...
So let's get the lawyers in and debate it for 4 hours over whether it's 3, 4 or 5.
And 3 ex-players that probably don't watch a lot of footy are going to decide what it is. I agree with you. Let's just make it 4.
Yep.
And if he wants to challenge it, well, then you have an...
That's the step.
Yeah.
One ex-player and one legal figure. And they sit there and go, right, the player can go, well, you know, Footy Act, you can have 4. The lawyer goes, well, it should be 6. All right, do we want to meet in the middle?
Yep.
There's 5. That probably makes it too simple. I got absolutely smacked online for saying it must have looked like a footy action when it happened because nobody came in to try and rip into Connor Nash. And everyone was saying, I don't think so. But I stand by that. If it had been a really just a gross king hit or a really big punch in the sense of not a footballing act, there would have been remonstration very quickly. And that didn't happen whatsoever.
And given there was a bit of heat in the game to that point as well.
And to back you up, I think it was Sean Manor that spoke to someone post-game. He said,
Triple M.
Yeah, Triple M. And he felt like as a player on the field, it was just one of those unfortunate incidents. And yes, he's going to get his suspension, but there wasn't any need to remonstrate thinking there was anything dirty in it.
The whole Noah Bolter situation, we've been talking about it on this show and other Triple M platforms and other media platforms. It was appallingly, in my eyes, handled by both Richmond and the AFL to allow him to play football last weekend when we knew in the diary there was the Tuesday court hearing in New South Wales this week. That played out yesterday. The magistrate who sentenced Noah Bolter, I feel, made a very strong point to put a curfew on his sanctioning, and as such, that means that he will not be able to play this particular Thursday and upcoming matches that are going to be going beyond the 10 p.m. time frame in Melbourne. I feel the statement was made pretty strongly by the magistrate. Now, whether he or she meant to do it that way, it was done that way, and I think it exposes the AFL and Richmond for what they were about last week.
It was poorly handled regardless of that sentencing. And now you look at it and go, geez, that is a massive miss in terms of why wouldn't you have just said, no, we've got a responsibility here to the community, to everybody, and it's not right. It doesn't sit right with us. If it is Tuesday, we'll wait till then. We'll cop an extra 2 weeks of him not playing and we move on. I think if that had been the case, and again, we can't 100% know what the magistrate was going to do, but you just feel there was a little bit of, right, if you're the AFL and you think you're bigger than the law, if you think you're a coach of an opposition side and you're bigger than the law, if you can go out and have a go at a politician who's meant to run the state, all right, well, have a go at this.
It's spot on. It does feel that way, doesn't it? The whole, who cares that you're a footballer and who cares you did 4 weeks suspension on the sidelines?
And that's how it should be
It's
too.
about the law, not about a game of football, and I'm going to make it 10 o'clock so that you can't play certain games.
And you're referencing there to Damien Hardwick's comments post-match, former coach of Noah Bolter, needlessly, I feel, inflaming it, as he did on the weekend.
Well, there was a way he could have said what he said without, being so harsh
he made it
and
personal,
direct.
didn't he?
Yeah, and that's the issue. But okay, well, I would have thought that politicians maybe should be not commenting on this, but I also understand it's an act within the community. So, that's where I sit on it, rather than just slapping the Premier and copying his whack now too.
And one of the unfortunate rolling storylines of the year is Jamara Ugle-Hagan's status at the Western Bulldogs, yet to be seen on an AFL venue this year, has barely been seen, or not enough seen on a training track at the Western Bulldogs. And as we now go into round 7, Joey, it's highly unlikely that he's seen at all this year, and that may well mean that never again for the Western Bulldogs as well, despite a contract for next year. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. Luke Beveridge last week announced publicly that the AFL's involved, and the context to that is it's the welfare programs and the wellbeing programs that Dr. Kate Hall, who heads up wellbeing at the AFL, she's overseeing it in conjunction with the Western Bulldogs, but ultimately, nothing has happened this week, even in light of the Sam Darcy absence, to sharpen up any form of behaviour from a return to football perspective.
That's what I was going to ask. So you think the Western Bulldogs, they've got two situations. They can either say, let's sit down with Jamara one more time and just see, can he get himself back and get himself right? Or you think it's almost past that now where they go, you know what, we're just going to move on this season. We know we're missing Big Sam Darcy, but we're not even going to move on with Jamara. We're just going to get past this and let it, because it's affecting. It's been spoken about every single week. So it's almost, let's cut ties, not cut ties, but let's just move on without him.
My take on this, and everyone's got a different view, and the club will have a different view to this, but my take on it is at some stage, this is on back of phone calls made yesterday, on the back of those phone calls, there will be a coming together of sorts at some stage to just finalise how 25 looks. Now, whether they broadcast the outcome of that gathering or how that gathering is actually held, but they need to make a decision on the 2025 season as much as they do the 2026 one and beyond, because there comes a point, and it may have already been reached, where he cannot get back for this year, given what's required from a pre-season that he missed.
He's still fit, though. That's him on Instagram yesterday.
I saw another Instagram photos. Good on him. He's posted one with him having a six-pack, but
he looks fit, though.
Yeah, I'm not reading much.
It could be worse. He could be sitting there with a mud gut.
No. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so he's clearly doing some work, whether or not it's enough to come back at the elite level, but... Look, it's no doubt it's been a distraction. That's all we've spoken about for the entirety of the preseason, and now it's going to be magnified with Darcy going down, that's for sure.
Well, the Bulldogs have a huge game against the Giants. That's a modern-day rivalry in Canberra on Saturday night. We'll get your predictions for round 7 coming up soon on the Midweek Rub. Damo, no matter the ladder positions, Geelong and Hawthorn always show up against each other.
Absolutely fair dinkum. There's an element of the showdown about this. Doesn't matter where Port or Adelaide are on the ladder when they meet each other. The same for the Cats and Hawthorn, particularly on the Easter Monday.
Shout out to the crowd too. Yeah. That was massive and well done.
Sticking with the Cats, Joey, Bailey Smith will be leading Geelong's best and fairest.
Yeah, that's fair income. I think right now he'd be winning. He's missed one game, but his 5 that he's played have all been excellent. And Ed is, I think even the most optimistic people thinking what he could do at Geelong would be surprised about the impact he's had. He's been the recruit of the year by a mile.
Daisy, Cozzy showed that 3 first-rounders might be unders for him.
Oh, that's Fugazi. But he did remind everyone just how good he was. I was there watching that one live just purely as a punter in the stands. He looked like he was going to kick 10. Everywhere he went, he had purpose. He was flying through
clean, wasn't he?
Clean. Yeah. He was a level above everyone else. His football nous and smarts were on show, and that's a long and a good reason as to why they won that game.
Joey, the weather did help, but the Crows finally proved their defence can hold up.
Yep, both of those statements fair income. They know you need to be able to defend to win flags. They focused on it during the week and they delivered. Now, that was an exception to keep Giants to 34 points, but...
It's also boring to watch.
It was pretty average, but that's what you got to do sometimes. Yeah. And we know they can score, but for them, the key is going to be defence, and let's see if they do it again against Fremantle.
Damo, there's still a story to tell for Ken Hinkley at the Power in 2025.
Fair income. It doesn't matter what... We don't know what that story... how it ends, but yes, there is. And I like and I love the fact they've got their season back on track with 2 consecutive wins now, both against the grain, particularly the Hawthorn one, but it's just given them a chance to reset and a chance to believe again. Now, how far it takes them, no idea.
Talk about Bont and his return and everyone walking taller. When Zach Butters comes back for Port Adelaide, how influential he is.
What about the imbalance of criticism versus pump-up for Port Adelaide and Ken Hinkley? We were piling into them against before they got up against Hawthorn. That first half was unbelievable. The same on the weekend, and we're sort of just going, we'll wait again to see when Ken can cop it. Rather unfair, I would have thought.
Joey, Sydney's start to the year has flown under the radar.
Yeah, good fair income. It is. This team played in the grand final. Their age profile is a team that should be continuing to improve. I think we've sort of let them off the hook a little bit because of the injuries, and they are significant. I mean, Errol Goulden's a top 10 player in the game, and Papley and Mills as well, and Logan McDonald's important, and now Amadi. So we have given them a slight effort. It has been very disappointing. More so the way they're playing. They just don't look like the Sydney Swans that we're used to. So good call, Rabsy. Well done.
Daisy, Nick Daicos is now untaggable.
Fair income. He will have impact no matter what you do to him, whether or not you can quell that to sort of less than 20 in a goal, but I think untaggable is a fair enough call. His work rate, his speed, his ability to find the ball, but also Collingwood understanding now to give him the ball at all costs when he does get tagged, because he will do magical things with it. He becomes untaggable. That's fair income.
It's exactly like Gary Ablett Jr. You knew even if you tagged Gaz, he was still going to have 30 and have impact.
30.
But if you didn't tag, him, it was best on ground, and you almost knew it. So you've almost got to try and tag him to limit some sort of influence. Otherwise, you just know they're going to be the best player on the ground.
We played the Gold Coast Suns at the MCG, and I got to go head-to-head with Gaz. About 5 minutes to go.
Was it a head-to-head or was it
Well, it was more meant to be tagging, but I took that as head-to-head. And with about 5 minutes to go, we're 80 points up and the crowd started cheering.
Yeah.
And I was 50 touches comes up on the screen. Gary Ablett Jr. kept him to 52.
We played against them when he was at the Gold Coast one day, and we had to giggle at three-quarter time because we put our third different tagger on him for the last quarter. We were in the huddle giggling. It was incredible that he took three of them to the cleaners.
Damo, you've already spoken about this man in your news segment, but I'm going to give you another runway here.
Yep.
The Bont returning over the Easter weekend was as poetic as it was important for the Dogs.
Absolutely fair dinkum, Rabsy. I'll talk about how he looked on the weekend just gone, because he had the big head, didn't he, and the big tied back, and he just looked supreme. And you talk about poetic. I went down that path in this answer because I've got nothing else left. I've given him as much love as anyone can give a man. I love him.
If he went to the Kangas, would they start winning games?
Yes, of course they would. You should make him captain coach.
Joey, with Battle and Barras arriving at the club, James Sicily is a bit lost at the moment.
I'm going to say Fugazi. I don't think he's lost because Battle and Barras are in the team, but certainly he's out of form these last couple of weeks. It's very unlike James Sicily. I mean, for him to kick the ball as bad as he was, I've never seen before. He's lost confidence. He's dropping marks. His body language is poor. So he's going to a coaching job to get him back into form because he's off.
Has to be carrying something.
You reckon he's got to be injured?
Has to be, yeah. They're obviously not disclosing it, but I reckon he has to be playing sore or injured.
Damo, forget Richmond. Dimmer's the one with the issues at Marvel.
Yes, fair dinkum. Yeah, the infamous statements made when he was still coaching the Tigers, and they've haven't gone away from a win perspective at the Suns. It's in his head. Yeah,
I think it's like 11 of the last 12 they've lost there. Well, he's lost.
There's been a draw, I think, hasn't there?
Yeah. I'm going to play a bit of audio here, Daisy.
Ash, who do Freo need to lift from? Who's not getting the job done for them?
Oh, no.
Triple M Red Z lending stats as we...
Because we've got a massive order. Ash, where are you at there?
No, I'll just grab the cup of tea. Look, that's a very good question, JP. No, look, I'm just trying to balance it out.
Underwhelming as I've bloody heard.
No, they've had 24 entries inside 50, and Tracy, who's equal leader in the common, coming to today's game, just the one major, 5 touches.
Well, that's all I needed.
Yeah, Amos has been down this year, just the one major. Take that 4 majors against West Coast.
That's the most rattled I've ever seen you.
Throw a man a bone, Ash.
Even after a quieter gather round, Truman is still never good after an away trip.
Truman at Adelaide, he's like Dimmer at the Marvel Stadium. Just not quite right for a fair period after the Truman. You could just see the wheels in the brain trying to turn over.
Well, I don't know what was happening at the MCG, but this is also from that game, Joey. I want to play you this one.
So good game of footy, 24. Sorry, that'll be Rivers bringing it out from fullback.
Stand!
96. Well, yeah, exactly.
He's calling his number, not his name.
I was looking at the Harvey Norman.
I thought you were saying the margin.
Seriously.
I like it, Baz. Old school calling.
The People's caller, Barry Denner, needs to watch more Melbourne games.
24 to 26. He was just...
Go D's.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Baz. He's the ringleader, though, on these gather-round
He
trips,
is.
so maybe he needs to sharpen up as well.
Nachos.
Well, we've got some round 7 predictions are coming up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Damo and Daisy. Round 7 kicks off tomorrow night with Melbourne versus Richmond, Anzac Day Eve. You can hear every game across round 7 on Triple M and the Listener app. And let's start with that game. Joey, how do you see Melbourne versus Richmond?
Well, as I said, Melbourne found their offensive flow. Hopefully they continue to play that way. But I was really impressed with Richmond. I love the way they go about it. I'm not going to tip the Tigers, but they would be my outsider if I was. I think they can get close to Melbourne, despite what the favourites are clearly Melbourne. But, that's my outsider.
If it was a day game, would you tip them?
Probably, yeah.
Just means there might be one more inclusion if you're reading between the lines.
Oh, yes, that's a right. Good one. No,
and
big out.
yes, the absence of that person
Yes.
is the reason I'm tipping Melbourne.
For the same reasons, Melbourne for me.
Damo, Collingwood versus Essendon, the traditional Anzac Day match.
I said this same phrase last week and it blew up my face. I just can't see why Collingwood loses this game. I just feel they've got absolutely everything going at the moment, and I'm worried about Essendon's big man department. Clearly, that Goldstein has to be the main ruck.
Weather dependent on this one.
What's
I think
the weather say?
It's meant to be raining, so there's meant to be a hard sort of slog of a game. I saw the Pies against Carlton in wet conditions, and their ball use was a level above. Probably brings Essendon back into it a little bit, but the Pies should be winning.
Yeah, Essendon weren't comprehensive against West Coast by any means. The ruck situation, I can't see Essendon slowing down Collingwood's offence.
2 games on Anzac Day, Fremantle versus Adelaide at Optus Stadium.
I want this one with a full weather caveat. If it is raining, I want to take Freo. If it's not, I want to take the Crows. And it's 80% chance of 1 to 5 mil. So there you go. So if it's pissing down, I want Freo. If it's not, I'll take the Crom.
Get off the fence.
Well,
mate.
I can't, like, if you want me, I can ring in the tip before the game.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time code, 10:30 on a Wednesday. It's a bit early.
Well, if it's raining, you know my tip. And if it's not, you know my tip.
I'm tipping Fremantle with no confidence, and I reckon it could be one of the games of the round if it plays to potential.
Keeping the faith in Fremantle, but with no confidence.
St Kilda versus Brisbane to kick off Saturday.
I can't see St Kilda winning. My daddy's taking little Noah to the game, so maybe Noah's the good luck charm. I gave them no chance against Geelong, and they won that game. But no, Brisbane I think will bounce back in a big way.
Brisbane.
I don't know why.
Got it ready?
Get it ready. For it. Here we go.
I'm not.
Get it ready.
Go.
I can see St Kilda being competitive. You know what? I will do it. St Kilda win this game against Brisbane.
Daisy Thomas is the Oracle.
Seen him well, Daisy.
This becomes the issue. I get full of confidence and I get carried away.
I like it.
Damo, Port Adelaide versus your North Melbourne Kangaroos.
Port Adelaide.
Port Adelaide.
Port Adelaide.
You're learning, Joey.
Taking me a while.
Huge game in the nation's capital. GWS versus the Western Bulldogs.
The Giants, for me, in this one, the Darcy out is going to be a big story continuing and ongoing for the Western Bulldogs. There's a 4 or 5 goal head start every game with how good he was playing.
Can Toby Bedford tag Bont, or does that not work with the size and the matchup situation?
He could, but if that's the case, that's when I would be sending Bont forward.
Yeah.
So anytime you leave, you just go forward and we'll kick it into you. That could be a good matchup, but GWS surely.
I think the Dogs are a chance, but I'm not brave enough to pick them in this game. Giants.
Yeah, Bont makes me nervous, but I think the Giants at Marnie should win.
Gold Coast versus Sydney, Damo. Interesting game. People's first stadium.
We just touched on this a moment ago. I'm really worried about the Swans, and I think the Gold Coast will need to bounce back. They've had 2 lethargic type matches against North Melbourne previously, then lost last week to Richmond. So I feel having that be the case, I reckon Hardwick will have got them sharpen up again for a home game against the Swans.
This is my certainty. The Gold Coast Suns win comfortably.
Comfortably?
Yeah, they play very good footy at home. I'm not seeing much in the Sydney Swans at all, so Gold Coast easy.
I agree.
A rare double header in Melbourne on Sunday. Carlton versus Geelong. Daisy Thomas.
Geelong will be my certainty this week, Rabsy. Just concerned that Carlton, their last 2 weeks have been okay. The scoreboard was probably better than the performance against the West Coast Eagles, 70-odd points. And then last week, North Melbourne were non-competitive, so you can't take any real form line out of that other than winning the game. Geelong should be too good.
I feel Carlton's a chance in this. I'm going to use them as my outsider potentially, but I'm not brave enough to tip them, the Cats. I mean, you know, Joey, I just tipped the Cats and it's been a good policy for 20 years.
And
I'm going to do so again here, but it won't surprise me if Carlton does put up a good showing.
Carlton do have a good record against Geelong, so that is a case to be made, but I'm with Damo. Never tip against the Cats, very rarely, so they'll win.
Stick with you, Joey. The other game in Melbourne on Sunday, rounding out round 7, is Hawthorn versus West Coast Marvel Stadium.
The Hawks boys get to fill their boots. Sicily back in form. They'll all stat up and they'll win this one comfortably.
We're talking 90 points here, 75 plus sort of thing.
Yeah, they might have a bit of edge about them. Hawthorn after a couple of losses. Yeah, this could be ugly.
I'm just trying to figure out who did the sheets for this. Carlton v Geelong at the SCG.
It was me.
Yeah, was it? Sorry. I was trying to see if it was Marvel or not.
That's MCG. That's us on Sunday Rub, Daisy.
There we go.
Sunday Rub, Carlton Geelong.
Round 6 predictions.
Come on, Ramsey.
Someone just phoning it in a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I've got a bit going on.
Hawthorn should be winning this one comfortably.
Which means West Coast will win. You can catch every game across round 7 on Triple M and the Listener app starting tomorrow night with the Thursday Rub ahead of the Anzac Eve blockbuster between Melbourne and Richmond from the Triple MCG. Jack Heverin, Kate McCarthy, Isaac Smith and the Chief, J.Z. Clark will run you through the pre-game. This has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub.